Hello YouTube, how you doing today everybody? Listen, I'm going to do a video on how to make chicken Pepsi at home.
Welcome back to the shit show. So I wanted to make this video a couple weeks ago, but my bitch ass got COVID, so I've been pretty sick. I've been just finally recovering. I got the Speeduino all done, got everything wired up. I started it, it ran. The transmission that I got is fucked. So I bought one transmission before for a Volvo 740. Didn't realize that cannot bolt in. The shifter bracket is different. The shifter cage is different. The output flange is different. The mounting location for the whatchamacallit, the thing that mounts it to the transmission mount. That's that's different. The mounting location for that is different. So I put that aside. That was actually a very good one that had low mileage and it was like really good shape. So I couldn't use. Also the input shaft spline is different too. There's a couple different variations based on year, but I ended up finding a Volvo 241 from I want to say from a 79 240 or an 80 240, and it was only $100. So I took the gamble. The guy said he wasn't sure if it worked. He thought it would just need to be resealed, and how all that goes. Turns out first gear synchronizer's fucking gone. It like, you know, feels like the engine's deep throating the input shaft while I'm going down the road in first gear. Second gear, perfectly fine. No third gear, no fourth gear. So it basically had 1.5 gears when I was test driving it, and that's not fucking fun. And it also leaks from everywhere. I was just gonna do that as a like interim thing until I put in a T5, but God, it's been so the first time I put the transmission in, the pilot bearing was actually incorrect for the clutch. So the clutch release bearing was incorrect depth. I don't even know what it was for. I got it with the 740 transmission, and it was, I don't know what it was for. The depth was completely wrong. Basically, the pilot bearing would like ride the bearing, the release bearing would ride against the clutch disc, the fingers, even at full out. So it was like it always had a little bit of pressure on it. So it was basically slipping all the time. So I thought that, oh, well, that's weird. Probably should, pull that out and fix it. So I did that. I got the correct bearing, put that in, started driving it. Turns out the transmission was also bad. So I've pulled and put this transmission in 3 times now. I think this will be the 4th or something. 1, 2, something like that. 4th. I don't know. I'm over this fucking car, bro. So what I did is I'll show you the transmission first. There she is. Dirty bitch. But you can see the overdrive unit. It's basically just a 1-gear automatic transmission. It's the overdrive unit that puts it into 5th gear, quote unquote. That thing's leaking everywhere. But I pulled the spline out. See that shaft right there? It's a nice shaft, but it's like 13 spline or some shit. So I took all of this apart and I got my, go over here. So there is the 740 transmission in much, much nicer shape. Very, very clean. Well, as clean as a 30-year-old transmission is with 80,000 miles or whatever on it. But you can see the spline right there. It's like a 31 or something. But I have clutch discs for both, so. But I basically had to get a new one of these right here. This is that guy right there is where your shifter drops in, and then you have the arm, which is this guy right here. See that, dude? That's where it pivots in, and then you have the little ball right there. And that pivots and basically shifts for you. Kind of pivots around. It's like a really weird system. I don't really like it. Very sloppy, even if you have new bushings and stuff. But so I pulled that apart. I had 2 different types. So there is the 740 shifter cage. So it's too long. And then you can see that one is the old school 240, which see how it's like a horseshoe and it bolts in from the top and the sides. These ones, this style of housing with this laycock only bolts in directly to it. So I had to get this, which is for this specific year of M46 for a 240 because they're different. And then I had to take the arm, and because the 741 is so much longer, basically, basically it comes out to like here. So the shifter would be like, you know, fucking way the hell up here. So I have to cut and weld the other, the 741. You can see I've kind of already started cutting it. Basically like right there. I'm going to chop off, I got to remeasure, I don't remember what it was, like 2.5 inches or something. Because I need it to be 9 3/4 inches long for the shifter arm. Oh wait, here's the old. And the reason why I can't use the old style one from the other one is because it's straight. So the pivot ball is straight on the really old style 240 M46. And this is the correct style. So it's just been like, holy crap, man. I thought that building, let me turn you guys around. That is not in focus at all. That's a little better. I thought that building the ECU and everything else and tuning it and getting it running would be harder. It fired first try. That took me like an afternoon to do. This has been like weeks, man. So I'm going to get that cut. I'm going to start welding it, and then I'll put everything back together, and we can put the transmission in the car, and I can finally show some like test footage of the car running, driving, and all the other good stuff. So we'll get to that now. Oh, it's hollow. Kind of makes this a little bit easier, actually, surprisingly. All right, I'm gonna get this end cleaned up, and then we'll measure how much exactly I need to take off of there. Okay, so I need to clean this up a little bit better, but I mean, I only have a TIG welder, so it's got to be like real clean where I'm mounting it. So it's like pretty flat if I can get the angle right. And so I'm gonna cut the other end and clean that too. Going to double check my measurements. Okay, basically from there to there, 9.5 inches, right on the money. So I'll get these both really cleaned up, and then I'll tack it, make sure I fit it up after I tack it, and then we'll double check. That's about as straight as I can get it. It's like, I don't know, I think it's like 14 gauge, maybe 12 gauge. So I'm just gonna go with 85 amps. It's typical torch. I'm just gonna get everything cleaned up and prepped. And I mean, it's magnetic, so I think it's just mild steel. So I'll just clean up some. Hopefully, I don't really know how well you're gonna actually be able to see this, but see if I can turn that up a little bit. Well, nice and well. Didn't even really need a filler rod, really. My fitment was good enough where it just fuse welded, so this should be good now. We'll fit her up. Okay. Still a little warm. That's okay. Got pliers over here. I'll just go ahead and grab that. There we go. And basically, whoa, magnet. Okay, so all of the, let me get you in focus. All the footage of me installing that and messing with it got corrupted. So here is a very accurate reenactment that I did of the installation process. See my shifter all in, looped and sloppy, little dirty beach. Yeah. God damn.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
That is some play. I should probably get the brass bushings or something to upgrade for this. Or it won't, and I'll wait till I get the T5. But what a nice car, man. Such good shape. I gotta pull the tint off because it's not legal in New York. It kind of sucks, but oh well. Right in there, you can barely really see anything but that wire, a little USB cord. That's where the Speeduino is. So we're gonna plug it into the laptop, and I'll kind of show you the settings that I use to start this sucker up. Okay, Speeduino, so it's tuner software. And you just plug her in. And there we go. So you can see, hopefully you can see them so you can focus this a little bit better. Try and get some of that glare out of there. That might be a little bit better. There we go. So you can see throttle position. So if I put on the gas, and there you go. And what you can see right here is my sync loss. That counts the amount of times that the trigger sensor loses its sync. You got your air fuel, got your pulse width for your fuel injectors, got your coolant temp, got your inlet air temp, and your engine map, which is your manifold absolute pressure, got your engine speed, throttle position, yep. So we'll kind of just see if I can hold the camera and start it up. Wow. Look at that, no, oh, look at that. No throttle, no nothing. The IAC I do, the IAC I need to change because it's the original IAC came with the car, so it's got like 100,000 miles on it. And it's not very good. Doesn't fully react, but. See the RPM there. FR gauge seems to be working. Yeah, so show you what I did. You can see right in there, right there, that is the E36 TPS with the 3D printed mount adapter. I have my crank position sensor, which is right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send a piece of metal, just because at low RPM, this really like low RPM, low or like high load, like kind of going up a hill or getting up, it flexes a bit, I think, or like engine harmonics or something, and you can lose a little bit of sync at really low RPM. So I'm going to go through and just have this laser cut out of some, like, I don't know, 1/8 inch mild steel or something. See all my other stuff. Runs good. My map sensor is right here. That connects to that top port right there for the vacuum signal. Wideband sensor. It was just a standard wideband bolt-in right there from the 740 manifold. I did some jankery with my coolant routing, just I don't like the, I didn't want to have like weird hoses, and this is much more stable. 3D printed, this is my intake air temp, it's 3D printed. And I have the air right there. Using a MXD blaster coil. There, right there is my igniter. She runs good. I'll probably hop over on the computer and then show you guys the tune and everything on the computer so you can actually see it really well. Okay, so here is Tuner Studio. Open her up. I'm gonna open up my project. I guess, you know, we'll just should we go through, we'll go through this like it's a new project. That should be easier. Just do I don't know, YouTube test, and then I'll show you the actual thing. Oh, I need to go through and select your Speeduino file. Your Speeduino will show you how to like compile this and download it. It's super easy. It's just like EFI Speedy Loader or something. And then you can pick your targets. So PSI. This enable hardware test is good for testing coils and injectors. Just leave it off by default unless you have to test stuff. Everything else looks good. And then next, default. Yeah, we'll just leave it at default. I think I have a bunch of stuff. What is this one? Oh, that's cool. And then you have that. This one, you can download a bunch too off the internet, which is kind of cool. All right, so finish that. And then for the, let's try and I think we should go to work offline. All right, then you go to settings, and you would do engine constants. So required fuel basically is your injectors, which I believe off the camera, the top of my head, the cubic inch of the engine is like 2314 or something. There's 4 cylinders. The injector flow rate, cc per minute, is I believe 215 for the yellow top ones, and your AFR is 14.7. So hit that. Okay. Out of bounds. What do you mean? Should be 2. Number of cylinders 4. Number of injectors 4. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Engine type even fire, port injection, 4-stroke. Okay, now we can do it. So it should be good. Okay. So 18.1 microsecond of opening, or millisecond of opening for wide open throttle. Basically, that's like the max amount that you would need for total, including dead time and stuff. And then your Speeduino board, which I am using the 0.4 injector layout, is paired for mine, and map sample is I believe cycle average is what you want, or which one was it? Yeah, cycle average. This basically is like how you can also do switch points. So like I would do like 1500 RPM. So basically the map, which is your manifold absolute pressure sensor, is it's how the data is collected. So if you do instantaneous, it's constantly reading all of the map data all of the time, and you don't really need that for, it's just gonna overwhelm the board, and you don't really need it for anything like over 2 cylinders or something. Yeah, for 1 to 2 cylinders. This averages out the map readings over a set time period. I don't know exactly what the period was, but it's like, I don't know, whatever, the last like 6 reads or something, and it averages it very quickly, but it averages it out. And then you can set your switch point, so like above 1500 RPM it'll go to cycled average, whereas below it it'll be instantaneous, and that's good for like idle quality, and where you're not like the engine's not like going through a ton of different map variables. This is nice. So that's just how I set it up. So you would burn that and close. Then you would go to your injector characteristics. This should injector opening time. I don't know why that is set to. That is not. Yeah, that should be like 0.2 or something. I don't know why that auto-filled that in. Huh, that's strange. But yeah, I would put like 0.2 microseconds. Well, just look up your injectors because they're all different. I don't remember what mine is off the top of my head. And you can do battery correction mode, which is like basically based on your battery voltage, it'll adjust your injector percentage. So I don't know if this is like set up. Interesting. I don't know why it's not. Usually this would be, you know, it's probably because I don't have my Speeduino actually hooked up. Some of this stuff, tables get kind of funky. But it should go into, one second, sorry about that. So basically it would be like, the graph idea would kind of be like, lower voltage would be like, it would open slower. So you would need more injector percent duty cycle. So it would be kind of like a, like that kind of graph. You can look up all sorts of injector characteristic voltage corrections for whatever injector you have. Typically, the good quality injectors will have all of this data for you. It'll provide everything. The old Volvo ones don't, so I've kind of just been like winging it. It seems to work so far. So then that's your injector characteristics, and then trigger setup. So this is what I have. Why? See, this is like weird. Why is it doing this? All right. So my trigger setup is a missing tooth, and it has technically 36 teeth. But it's actually missing one. So it has 35 actual teeth, but there's 36 positions for teeth. Every 10 degrees there's a tooth. And the primary trigger wheel is crank speed. The trigger angle is basically when after top dead center, when the first tooth after the missing tooth passes under your sensor. And mine was 175 degrees. And you can just literally just count the teeth when it's on the engine. It's super easy. You can put it whatever you need to. This is skip revolutions, so basically you want the engine to get up and spinning so you're not getting sync losses. So I just put this to 2. Oops, not -2. This is so annoying. But usually these should either be all filled in for you or all nothing, not weird negative values. But this setup for the Speeduino trigger system is falling edge, so just put and don't worry about secondary. Secondary trigger is for your cam. So you can have sequential timing, or you could. I think you can use these for VVT as well, or something. But this is for like if you have like a cam tooth, and this would spin at like cam speed, and that would be so you can have full sequential injection and ignition. So like you would basically know where every single cylinder is in its either compression or exhaust stroke. All of them. Your trigger filter is you can do weak, medium, or aggressive. I usually just use weak or medium. You kind of play with it. You shouldn't need aggressive unless you got some weird stuff going on. For me, weak's worked good. Medium if it's like being funny, but you should be okay with weak if your trigger setup is good. So that's this trigger setup, and then I don't really care about this. Should be auto filled in, and it should be close enough for basically everybody. It's just your intake air density corrections. It basically is correcting. It's a multiplier on the fuel table for your injectors based on the intake air, and it's not like crazy amounts of modification, but it is important for when like the intake air temps get really hot or really cold. You're going to want more fuel when it's cold, less fuel when it's hot, and it'll kind of be like that same sort of sloping graph. This should be auto filled in when you load your stuff in, and it should give you good enough. You can also fine tune it when you need to. Barometric correction, I don't use this. I'm not worried about it. If there's a table in here, leave it. Shouldn't, I mean, unless you're doing like hill climbs and going up like thousands of feet of it in elevation, short periods of time, like I wouldn't worry about this. And then tuning, excuse me. So first thing you want to do is you want to figure out your AFR tables. Of course, everything's all fucking weird. I don't know why I just put it to 0. Okay, not 7. Jesus, alright, maybe I should just load up my fucking tune. Oh my god. So typically, even my KPA values are all weird. Oh my god. Alright, let me just load up my actual tune because I don't want to fill in all this data. Yes. Okay, so that should be good. Alright, so if we go to the table. Oops, not Spark table. Nice, okay. So this is what I have for mine for right now. it comes stock with basically like a 14.7. I think I'm going to shift this AFR down slightly because my car tends to like cruise right about here. Up here it's not exactly cruising, so I might shift this around just a little bit. But this is the general idea of how you want to structure your AFR tables. Typically, as you get closer to wide open throttle, which is like 100 kPa of map, you want it to be richer. This is what I'm aiming for, 13.6. This is an NA engine, so it doesn't really matter. If this were boosted, I would aim for like under 5 psi. I'd be aiming for like 12.5, 12.3, somewhere around that area. And then if, you know, really high levels of boost, I'd be going for like 11.7, 11.5. Depends on your engine. Really, this depends how you want the car to run, and every car likes to run differently. I might change mine a little bit. Like for my rotary, for example, it really likes to idle rich. So like this is like 12.8 or something down here where it's Bridgeport, so it's like right here idling. It really likes it rich. This car seems to actually not mind idling right around 14. I'm gonna mess with it as I want to dial in the idle, but like this right here, these targets are good enough to go drive around on. You have follow mode, so like while it's running, it'll show you where you are in the RPM and KPA and what the target AFR is. So those are your AFR targets. You have to set those up first because those are what everything else is going to be trying to get to in terms of like auto correction, your O2 wideband or sensor corrections, what your all of your sensors are going to be modifying and adding on top of. So that's your AFR table. That's what you want to see. So your VE table is what you actually see. And this is what so far from doing a couple test tunes, I have Live Tuner on here. This is so far what my VE table is looking like from just from testing driving it. I have not been able to get into these cells, so that's why you don't see anything modified here. But you can see it's very inefficient, right around 1,000 RPM, 36 kPa. Pulls pretty good vacuum. It's got a big cam on it, which I was not big cam, but a big cam in terms of Redblocks. It's got a B cam. So it actually pulls pretty good vacuum for a cammed Redblock, which is cool. You can see kind of as you get up into the higher RPM and higher load values, you get more efficient. So you get closer to 100%. So this basically is dictating what your injector pulse width is going to be. You're using your AFR targets, and then you're calculating your efficiency based on what the O2 sensor is actually seeing, and then it adjusts accordingly as you drive, long term, short term. And what you can do is, so for VE, you have to set these. Try not to get ahead of myself. Kind of just put it in the 40s or 50s down here, kind of, you know, like sort of this like swooping again, and just get it up towards somewhere in the high 90s, maybe 100. Some engines, if their intake's built really well, even NA will go above 100. Boost, you'll see above 100 in some areas. So you kind of just have to get a general idea, and then you test and tune, and you make adjustments to match up to get everything nice and solid. And so this will take, you know, especially without a dyno, this will take probably a solid week of driving on the road. If you're not really familiar with doing this, it could take you a long time because you're going to want to be really, really careful and slowly build up into the RPMs because you don't want to like just mash it to, you know, full throttle and blow the engine up, and you know. But yeah, so I will show you the where was it? What I wanted to show you. Oh, the tuning. So the live tune. So basically, you can have cell change resistance. So this is how resistant the cells are to changing based on like driving conditions. I start off very easy, do a run with that just to kind of get a very general idea, and swap it to easy, then normal. And I've been doing normal now. I'll swap it to hard or very hard once I have the tune like really dialed in where I like it and where it drives really nice. And this will apply changes to your VE based on your O2 readings. This is really super handy. I would just recommend getting the Tuner Studio MS Ultra. It's like $100, and you get the Megalog viewer, you get this auto tuning, you get a bunch of extra features. It's worth it. It's so worth it. And then actually the gauge cluster, you can change all of these too. You can add whatever you want. There's all sorts of different gauges and things. So engine speed, your RPM. This is your throttle position. I'll show you how to set up your is it tools? Yeah, calibrate. So basically, in order to calibrate your sensors, you go to tools, and like for TPS for example, you will have the throttle closed, So that'll get your 0, and you'll get current. When everything's plugged in, this will be lit up, and then you'll press your throttle all the way down to full wide open throttle and get current, and then accept, and that'll calibrate your throttle position sensor. You can pretty much calibrate like anything you want to. It's pretty nice. And then your pressure sensors. So the map sensor, mine is a GM2R, as you can see right here. They have a bunch you can select. They have all like the most common ones. They're pretty much, if you have a common map sensor, you'll be able to put it here. The GM2 bar, that's perfect for what I want to do for like low boost applications, and still having good NA like range to read the map sensor. I'm not using a baro sensor, and I'm not using an EMAP sensor, so I'm not really worried about that. And for your let's see, temperature sensors, the coolant temp sensor, mine is technically a Bosch, but oh, there we go. I don't know why it looks grayed out, but it's not. So mine's a Bosch, and the air temp sensor is a GM. So and then you would write to controller for each of those, and that would calibrate those. And then calibrate your AFR sensors. My AFR sensor is a 14.7. which is basically just the controller that reads an LSU 4.7 or a 4.9 or a couple of different ones, and you would just pick that and then write it to controller or whatever one you have. They have like basically every single type you could use, or you can do custom too. So you have a custom like reader, you can enter the values yourself. Super, like, you can do everything, you control everything on this. And then tuning. They have stage injection, which is cool, which I'll be using for rotary at some point. Don't need that for right now. And then you have your spark table, so you can adjust your spark. So far, this is what my spark has. This one, I probably should like smooth this out, actually. Oh. There we go. Burn. So this is your spark table, spark advance. So these are for Redblock. I've kind of just like pulled numbers off of different forums for what people are running: aggressive timing, moderate timing, the stock timing. The stock timing is kind of weird. So I've kind of just mashed together what I think is right. This is different for every engine and for every type of engine. Like, this would not work on a rotary. This would destroy the car. So this is probably not aggressive enough for something like a small block Chevy, whereas like, they're like seeing like 60 degrees of timing up top, so like this is all based on your engine and what you're running. This is what I'm using for my Redblock with a B cam and stock exhaust and stuff. So this would work for like probably most normal people. This would be a good starting point where you're not gonna like do any damage to anything, and I haven't had any pinging yet or anything. So that's your timing. What else we got? Does have flex fuel, which is very cool. Flex fuel sensor, super easy. It's like $50 for like a GM one, and you can just hook it up and then it'll auto adjust based on ethanol percentage, which is so nice. All right, go to spark settings. I have single channel output, going low, and ignition load is map based. You can enable fixed timing, so you turn this on so you can like verify that your offset is correct. So you'd like set it to 5 degrees, check with the light, make sure it's 5 degrees. If it is, that means you're solid. Nothing much there. I guess you can go like, there's different types. There's wasted spark, there's wasted coil on plug, sequential, and rotary. Each one is different. I'll be using rotary. Sequential, you need the cam signal. Wasted coil on plug is like basically a wasted spark, so you're like firing like 1 and 3 and 2 and 4 through a coil on plug, which is good for like V6s and V8s. Single channel is just like basically I'm sparking the coil out of the or I'm sparking the ignition, and then it's going through the coil and through the distributor. So it's basically firing, and because the certain Volvo Redblock distributors don't have any vacuum or mechanical advance at all, because it was all controlled by the LH or the EZK ignition, the Chrysler ignition system they have. It doesn't control timing at all. So you're literally controlling all of the timing through the Speeduino, but with a distributor, which is really interesting and kind of cool. It makes it super easy to wire it up. So that's for my setup. Start up and idle. My idle control is PWM. I need to get a new PWM because the one I've tried cleaning, I took the other Volvo one apart. I tried cleaning it. I did a bunch of stuff to it. Was not It works okay, sort of, but it doesn't. The actuator inside doesn't sweep its full, like travel. So it's like it is controlling my idle okay. It's just not great with the large swings. But these are my settings that I have. Your P is basically how quickly it's going to get towards your target if it's above or below. This I is basically like your brakes. So like as it approaches it slows down either aggressively or gradually. And D is, I don't exactly remember D. Did I write a note? No. The D is, what does D do? I can't remember what D does. I mean, I'll look it up and put a note in or something. But your P and your I are basically your most important ones. Your idle direction. So I'm using a 3-wire idle, so it's not a like stepper, but it's on a 2-wire. So number of outputs is 2. Basically, you're grounding each side of the IAC coil, and you can reverse it or normal. I've found that 60 hertz is working for me. You're gonna have to test this to kind of figure out, or if they have the information online for yours, then you might be able to look it up. I don't know what the old Volvo Bosch one is, so I just put 60. It's basically like an old Porsche one, and some people said 120 worked. It seems like 60 is working for me so far, but yeah, you can have one out. You can have 1-wire IX, 2-wire IX, or you can have like stepper motor IX or none. And that's just like you kind of have to mess around with it. So you can kind of just copy these settings and mess with it to get like a good response. If it's not reacting fast enough, increase this number. If it's reacting way too fast and like going over or under your RPM target, lower this a little bit or increase this to slow it down sooner. You kind of have to like fine tune these numbers, and these don't like go big. You can see it here. One is 100%, so like, don't go crazy with it. Do like a 10% increment, see what that does, or something, along those lines. Then accessories, you can have all sorts of stuff. So you can have a ground trigger for your thermo fans. You can have launch control. You have fuel pump control, nitrous. You have your VSS and your gear selection, gear detection for automatics. You have air conditioner control. You have fuel and oil pressure. Boost controllers. You have VVT control, which is really cool. There's your TAC outputs and CAN bus. Yeah. So that is pretty much enough to get, I think, most people like started. I guess your idle RPM targets. This is like for like your idle. So as it cools down, or as the engine warms up, your idle will drop your RPM. Any of this, cold start. So you have cold advance. You have intake air temp retardation. So like if your intake air temps get too high, it'll retard your timing up to looks like 7 degrees or so. I would just leave those the way they're set unless you have like specific needs to do that. Get your dwell settings. So like I would not mess with these too much. I would try and look up what your controller's good with. I think the IGBT chips are good to like at most like 8 maybe or 7 milliseconds of dwell. If you go any higher than that, it'll like burn out. You can have so see how this has like a over dwell protection, so like it won't, no matter what, it won't go over 8 milliseconds of dwell, which basically means like you're just firing your ignition module and it'll just like melt stuff and like burn out coils and what, depending on what you're using. But yeah, I think that's pretty much good enough to get most people started. The next video I will try and do some driving shots and things. I got to do a couple more modifications and I got to get the car inspected, and then I can put it on the road and actually go and drive it, so that'd be really exciting. So like and subscribe and all those other good things and whatnot. Have a good day.